This is Spencer Riggs with Design Department and another episode of Engineering's Greatest Triumphs and Blunders. In this series, we look at some of the greatest accomplishments as well as the biggest failures in product design. In today's episode, we are examining a success story, an outsider who came in and reshaped an entire market segment by launching a product that was so revolutionary, the industry would never be the same. We need to time travel back to a small factory just outside of Vienna, Austria, in 1980. A middle-aged engineer named Gaston managed a family-owned radiator factory. As a small side business, he and his wife would also make brass fittings for doors and windows. And the side business expanded to eventually include Gaston providing knives and bayonets to the Austrian Ministry of Defense. Now, as the story goes, Gaston was visiting the Ministry of Defense and overheard a conversation between two frustrated colonels. For years, the Austrian military had been trying to replace their outdated World War II pistols with no success. Gaston asked the colonels if he could bid on the project, and his request was met with laughter. I mean, how could a supplier of door hinges, knives, and curtain rods design something as complicated as a handgun? And Gaston was still confident enough to press forward, and so he did, and he asked the colonels for the design requirements. And the ministry, although skeptical, gave him the go-ahead to create a prototype and submit a bid. And Gaston was not a firearms manufacturer or even an enthusiast. In fact, as an adult, he didn't even own a gun. And this drove him to carefully study existing handguns, diving into their inner workings. And with no existing bias, he was able to keenly assess their strengths and weaknesses. Now, quick step back. This is often skipped by companies who feel they have a solid understanding of their competition, causing them to miss innovations which are happening right in front of them. But Gaston had gathered a group of professional shooters and firearms enthusiasts and asked them to describe the pistol of the future. He studied how they handled their guns, asked them to give him guidance on weight, size, capacity, and reliability. Gaston wanted to learn as much as possible about user needs by talking to actual users. And this is another important lesson we can learn, because too often as designers and engineers, we convince ourselves that we know what the customer wants without ever asking the customer. And a bit of humility often reveals the unexpected ways that our customers use the products that we design. So multiple iterations of design and prototyping and testing were completed, and by iteration number 17, Gaston felt he had a product worthy of presenting. And so on May 19th, 1982, Gaston Glock presented 4 samples to the Austrian Ministry of Defense. His handgun, the Glock 17. The Glock 17 contained a multitude of innovative and controversial features. One of the defining characteristics, a plastic frame, was almost unheard of at the time. The plastic frame enabled design flexibility and resulted in a lighter gun with fewer components and could be produced at a lower cost compared to other handguns. Glock's pistol went on to dominate the Austrian handgun evaluation, being awarded nearly 90 of a possible 100 points by the evaluators, and it wouldn't stop there. Glock went on to dominate the US law enforcement market, displacing the revolver as the standard sidearm for officers and agents across the country. So there's a lot here, and I took 3 major insights from Glock's story. And the first is that an outside perspective often reveals insight which insiders can miss. The second is that we should always be seeking to better understand customer needs as expressed by actual customers. Ask questions, make observations, put yourself in the user's shoes, because the more we understand about our customers, the better we can fill the unmet user needs. And the third is that sometimes to change an industry, you need to remove some of the constraints which limit your creativity or your team's creativity. Gaston Glock, an unknown middle-aged Austrian engineer, came in from the outside and turned the entire industry on its head by disrupting the status quo rather than appealing to it.